is I'm going to start this off. If you've never heard of me before, I am Silver Fox, a.k.a. Farseer, a.k.a. T-Funk, a.k.a. Brooks McGregor. You probably never heard any of these names, but it's okay, because they're all the same person. So if you've heard the one, you've heard them all.
Brooks McGregor.
So I'm going to kick this sucker off, like I said. I want to honor my homie, rest in peace, Ryan Bellows. And I am going to read from a selection of a previous Voices where we worked together as partners. And this is the piece I wrote inspired from one of his abstract paintings. And how I did it was, I looked at his painting and I tried to see what images I could pull out of it. And from that point, I created my poem. And it worked out pretty nicely. I came up with a couple good ones. So here's one of them. I call it Box Bellboy. Box Bellboy. Okay. As I stroll along, peering through the box on my head, up at the blood moon rising, the structures of a simple system steal sight from sky and shine from stars, save for a shifting Mars. The soulless society succumbs to sorceries used to seduce and soothe, sweetening sour dispensations while somehow transforming humans into horses without hooves, however haughty or high-minded their hubris so happen to seem. At the same second, suctioning the sanguine substance of the city's servile survivalist, slaves searching a surrealistic serpentine stream, seeking to subdue a surfacing sketch of how they see themselves as sleekly sliding along the currents of serenity, all the while suffering the suffocating stench of savage Sadducees. The peoples are adorned in purples. These pompous poor with perplexing passions pose to prop the structural framework which was carefully prepared and positioned by their prefects. The product of a corporate cooperation between the red and the blue, the tried and the untrue, reintroduced through redefined revenue, reaching the wretched residency of refined youth. Thank you.
Yeah!
So that's Box Bellboy. I see we have some other signees.
Good.
It's a good sign.
Thank heavens.
I must be having an impact.
Thank goodness.
Just kidding.
It would be very bad if there was nobody, if not, everybody wanted to look at the stuff, but nobody wanted to actually sign up and do anything.
Hold on a second. What did you just say? Well, say it right here, into the mic.
It would be very bad if everybody wanted to look at the stuff, but nobody wanted to sign up and do anything.
I agree. It would be very bad, wouldn't it? So I'm going to read another Ryan Bellows collaborative piece inspired from one of his original works. This one was done in all blues. The other one was red and purple. So I mentioned those colors in there if you were listening. Okay, this one I call Troll's Folly, because in the center of his painting, I could just see this like big hook nose like troll with big ears, in the middle of all this blue, and I saw the shapes of a bunch of different animals. So I tried to include as many as I could make out. So check this out. It goes like this. There once was a water troll, lived in the water, grinning smugly, reminiscing over cattle he had slaughtered. For his creatures grew more wary when they ventured near the lake. For when the troll seen one drinking, that's a life he'd quickly take. Ever lurking in the darkness like a demon most foul, a tall tale to the humans, watched closely by the owl. Outrun by the horses, he would dig in mud for frogs and snack on salamanders somewhere out by the bog. When the troll got his fill, he would howl most wicked. His kind was the main reason that there are no wild chickens. There was one dreary night the troll was chomping on a bone. All around was total quiet and he found himself alone. Not a single woodland creature, he had a feeling most strange. This was a new experience that clearly threw him in a rage. To and fro across the woods, even slashing at the trees. By himself he wailed in anger till he fell to his knees. Always living in the moment, never thought about tomorrow. He never knew his lust for blood would ever bring about his sorrow. Sitting by the river, he was gazing in the air and realized his constant murder only masked his despair. The end. Thank you. So, that was a couple Ryan Bellows collaborative pieces. It's a shame I won't be able to do many more, because I only did a couple more with him. So what I'm going to do now is read from the list and see who we got here. Is that interesting? So step on up, Charleen Cook.
Yeah. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Well, he's not the only one who's gonna be missing Ryan. It didn't seem possible when I first found out about it, but I just saw him just a little while ago. He was alive, he looked perfectly normal. How is this, what happened? But things happened. A light went out in Flint. Happened right around Christmas time, which is a lousy time for a light to burn out, if you ask me. And this was a pretty bright light. I liked the way it shone all over and illuminated all that darkness out there. Pretty bright light, I thought. 10,000 watt at least. Lights that rare, they're hard to find. I don't suppose we can replace it. We probably shouldn't even try. I guess maybe the best we could do is have all those other lights polish up a little and try to shine a little more brightly. Maybe that big empty space up there won't be quite as noticeable. Wherever that light is tonight, I think you'd like that.
Yeah.
Told you.
Well, actually, I think that was more or less what it went.
That was great.
Thank you. Yeah. And this I wrote maybe 15 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't sound too professional, forgive me. I just had to sit there and write it real fast.
Mental freestyle.
And it's called Break. You'll know exactly what it refers to when I tell you the title. Break, break, break on thy piano keys. A wave of sound pushing out, coming not from without, but within, pushed toward its supposed source, that lovely bicolored shore. Why couldn't he conquer it? Didn't he come from there? It was no use. The shore resisted every advance. He could not reach past it. worn out but determined. He turned at last into a different creature, a blue-gray slug. He had to content himself with brushing against the keys.
Well, a couple people wanted me to get back up here and do the same thing I just did. So I'm happily doing that. Lainey.
And I'm looking for a picture.
All right. The temperature drops below zero in the city of Flint, Michigan. In the house next to the house that's boarded up, a kitchen window cumbersomely refuses to slam shut. A wobbly slant will not wedge or stamp away the cold. A lifespan, a worn hand, a wish, and a wakefulness. I will whisper heat into your ears until your eardrums thaw and ripen once more. Among a sprinkling of unfrozen things, drips and smudges of alcohol and burnt toast lead off the countertop across the floor before the lukewarm heating duct. Again, he extends his arm with the swollen joint of his sore elbow as it rolls in its socket, as it rolls like a wary roll of the eyes after one of his mother's repeated warnings. A routine physical extension from home to school, from school to home, included the completion of homework and chores. The make of commands and their sounds that began to separate from the more familiar whole, the boom of the letter B of the word boy, the gospel and grandma in the open sky, a new pair of rubber boots and a fresh pair of socks, and a celery he promised to eat but always threw away. The smooth flame of a whispered voice closes his eyes, the nag and the quench of the heater's heat, a heartbeat. Like that, his grandmother would say, like that.
Yeah.
All right, right along. The door. The innate ability to remain gave way. The darkness that fell the moment he opened his eyes and that connected one room to the other, the light inside the room being approached. His mother in the mirror on the far wall, wary of her own face. His father in the wind, his father in a creak in the floor. A half voice whispers, "Go to bed, child." But the brand new tendency, the one that followed him out of bed tonight, would not allow it. He had no choice but to move, to solve. And so the very next step was skipped. No one could skip this step for him. He walked downstairs and placed his hand flat against the door. He walked out the front door. The loiterers remained unilluminated and silent. A train whistle perfected the distance and faded out. The stray sound of a surprised cat, the confusion of a dark alley. The point of origin was not made up out of nothing. The point of origin took off into the night sky like the forever of a word written on a lost bird. I'm not going too fast, am I?
No.
Okay. It's sort of like a routine. I read my poems out loud to all the time when I'm writing. I'm just constantly reading them out loud, so sometimes it can be a little bit more of too much of a routine. But I don't think that's happening, so good. Another recess. Despite his constant digging, he could not hide himself in the space located directly underneath the fire. He could not perceive the fire long enough or add any more of himself to the fire than he already had. The fire was added. The fire slipped through his counting fingers that did not burn. He lacked the verification that he was indeed confused amidst the fire, around the girls and the action heroes and the drama queens. Even the fire-breathing dragon stepped off the asphalt and walked into the building as if nothing happened. The sun was bright, but was not fire. Her lollipop was bright, but was not fire. The chalk on the asphalt was white enough to be wet, but not enough to be a river. Her tongue was bright red. She blossomed like a rose, stolen from the space where the fire stopped burning in that moment. She blossomed like laughter. She was added. She was not fire. Distraction. He was distracted by the minister's face, but not his words. The cadence, the strength that profited from his audience, the horn of his voice, the horn of his book, the bells that clapped with him, the garb that was the cross, too slight and angular to provide warmth. The leadership position and the panic of the minister's face. Indeed, the situation was dire. Indeed, the answers were tough. A gunshot is not the same as a slap to a boy's face. He wasn't sure if it was the minister that trembled like wind, or if it was a vision of a greater fire. Somehow the spaces behind his words were filled. In a quick breath, the Jupiter of spin, the Mars of a red world, as the dead sinners planned and failed to rise beneath the hardened soles of his antsy feet. Thanks.
This is a poem I wrote since the theme is, well, I'm wearing my KPU t-shirt today.
Yeah.
The theme today
Yes.
is that of Ryan Bellows. I wrote this back in June of 2013, and it was a result of Ryan had posted something on the Facebook, and it involved a lot of photographs of some, he had went west to Kalamazoo area, some sort of a, I don't know, some sort of an exhibit that included, the photo that I actually addressed was a photo that of a bead display, B-E, bead display, I'm not even sure I can spell it, which included necklaces and what have you, but it was very colorful, and I decided I would write a poem. Now, I've been writing poetry for over 30 years, but I basically write in stanzas. I don't write free or blank verse, so this was my challenge to write off the top of my head, and this is what I came up with, okay? This is from June 23rd, 2013. Am I dreaming? Am I dreaming? These colors streaming through a vortex of verbal beads, bleeding, breeding at tempo, pulse, stanzas, plasma, racing, tracing, chasing, flow and hustle, pour back, sore neck, cortex, corpuscle, muscles, shards of pastel petal, like magnets into metal, fragments, shavings, braving prisons, omen, sign, open sine waves, sending sync static arcs, bending prismatic sparks, finding beacons, blinding, beaming. Am I dreaming? Yeah, I'll be good with this one. Sure. Thank you. You're welcome. Thanks.
Give it up for our light tech.
This is my second time participating in Voices. This year I've been paired with Justin Faber, who's a visual artist, and his work is just beyond that wall. And so my primary discipline as a writer is a songwriter, and then followed by poetry. I've done a little bit of poetry. I haven't done an awful lot in terms of narrative and story writing, In fact, I haven't really tried to write a short story in over 30 years. This isn't a particularly long story, and I'll try to get through it as quickly as I can. But this is attached to his painting of a mammoth, a woolly mammoth. And here we go. I sat beside my tribal elder, he adorned in the ceremonial splendor of the Caribou clan. We, in the midst of the assembly tent, for which there were 80 warriors and statesmen, many wearing the proud skin and talisman of their spiritual leaders. Amongst us, the falcon, the lesser wolf, the black bear, the eagle, the great brown bear, the snow leopard, the great gray wolf, and the great white bear. My clan was most represented and hosted the assembly. The assembly attended by adult males. I was the only child. I sat alert as the statesman spoke of regional concerns, the greatest of which was the harshness of the seasons. 3 cycles have passed, each harsher than the previous. Each clan suffered in depletion of resources. Elder Snow Leopard spoke with resignation that his clan would continue to honor the alliance as it was pleasing and kept harmony with the great spirits. Yet he offered that his people were taxed beyond succor, and one more such winter would likely bring a break from the alliance. The elder Black Bear spoke and offered empathy to Snow Leopard's plight. The great spirits say that we are not cousins, but that we are brothers, and in times such as these, we must strengthen our bonds. Even so, there was tacit agreement amongst the men. I could sense in the eyes of many weary betimes would soon follow. It was in those same weary eyes that I read puzzlement as to the presence of a child at such a vaunted proceeding. Though I tried to feign my demeanor to that of a wizened sage, my eyes strained and reddened to the sting of the fire, the waning embers of which pretend the great coda of our meeting. Elder Caribou then spoke. He told of my dream and presented the drawing I was required to produce. Perhaps half of those present recognized the creature, though none had seen such a beast, nor had their grandfathers. Elder Falcon spoke. I have long relegated the mammoth to myth, and it is only spoken of as spirit by my people, if spoken at all. Elder Caribou then proposed a hunting mission, but this was met with half-hearted agreement, which is closer to wholehearted disagreement. Then Elder Caribou placed his hand on my shoulder and requested that I address the assembly. In doing so, I recounted my dream of my wanderings and my tramplings through tundra and coniferous great northern country. I spoke with detail that won over our northern visitors. I had been coached by Elder Caribou to speak in slow, steady, assured detail, and I will add that I was amazed at the overall response of our guests. Yet a few held out. Greatest among those were Elder Snow Leopard. It was then that Elder Caribou gestured to the entrance of the assembly tent. Ensuing, an elderly man of the lesser wolf tribe was ushered in. He was introduced as Blind Pine, and I was later told he was 20 years older than anyone in the assembly. Elder Caribou lifted the mat from which he sat. He cleared the ground of stones and signaled me to commence, whereby I made indentions in the ash and the dirt of the flooring, just as I saw them in my dream. Then, Blind Pine was brought forth and asked to kneel before my efforts. Using all but his fingertips, he slowly traced the impressions. It must have taken but seconds for him to arise, yet it seemed many minutes. It was in fact Elder Snow Leopard who helped the man to his feet. I can still recall the tear that rolled down the time-worn cheeks of the man adorned in the lesser wolf garb. He turned to Elder Snow Leopard and croaked the word, mammoth.
How's everybody doing?
Yeah, good.
That was awesome, by the way. Really like filled the room with some great sound. So yeah, some of these poems are here. I'm gonna read this one right here with the swan and the cityscape. And what's really cool about that art piece, and the poem was written in reference to the art piece, is there's a shadow under the swan, but it's not actually from that swan, it's from a different kind of swan or goose or whatever that bird is off the page. And so the title of the piece, I think, is Alone is Subjective. You know, we're never really alone, we always have kind of these connections to others if we look for them. And so that's kind of what, you know, formed this piece. It goes like this. I've seen the world through the eyes of others. I've listened to a seashell whisper about me in the ocean, and I've heard neon lights sing and hum a late night impression of the sun. A fortune cookie told me once, the only paths we take in life or in bed are those laid first by others. So in the snow I leap to fit my foot in iced over boot prints. And when the trail leads in the wrong direction, I make my own, knowing someone will follow in my footsteps and be glad they're not alone, even if they can't see me directly ahead. A bird once told me, to get a running start in life, you need to see the drop-off as a launch pad with no choice but success. She suggested I festoon feathers on my fingers and flap hard at the last second. I agreed, plummeted over the edge a few times before giving up. I never flew very far from the nest, but youth here was a shaggy-haired wilderness, a farmer's field of carnal cultivations untended and overgrown into a fruitful forest. Even though I imagine my failures and dashed dreams as a logging company, there's still room to plant saplings among the stumps and give someone else a chance to find their voice, trudging a familiar path over blades of broken grass. So, that's my bird poem. Anyways, this next poem is by Ryan Bellows. It's in this book that's available for only $10.
Only $10?
You guys have been to a poetry show. People in the back sicken me. Shameful, so shameful. So it's entitled Art Is, ... And I like this because you can really give people that sense of inspiration. He did it with this awesome painting of a tree in the background. And as I recall, the artist also was like a fiber artist, so she did a lot of cool stuff. And this was like an attempt at a painting, but you can see there's kind of like stuff sewn in. And so this is Ryan Bellows' poem, Art Is. Art is ... a process and a collaboration of the senses. Art is ... like nature, which is also a process and a celebration of the senses. Art is ... an expressive means of conveying ideas which suppress or uplift an individual during times of crises, despair, or abundance. Art is a natural process. So that's Art Is by Ryan Bellows. Yeah, you can say I see that moment, like, man, that's so good, I want to, but I don't want to cut them off. I appreciate that. This next piece I just wrote, if you turn around and look behind you, there's this wonderful color pencil drawing behind the silver fox there of a flower and a vase. And that was done by Will McCraw, there he is. Awesome artist. His poet didn't show up today, so I wrote a poem a second ago. Didn't show up yet today, so I wrote a stand-in poem 5 minutes ago about that flower.
Oh,
Well, about a flower.
congrats.
You see, our problems probably started when I compared your beauty to a flower. Because as soon as I picked you, our passion began to wilt. The longer you spent disconnected from your roots, the more our images of each other changed until withered. We decided it would be best to part ways and compost what was left of the flowery lives that once grew together. So that's that. And you can probably see it next to the piece in about 5 minutes. All right, so this is for another amazing, talented young artist that left us too soon. This is from last year's Voices. She did this piece. Her name is Megan Orange. Amazing, just amazing artist. I don't know if you can see her down there, but it's in the book. And this is my dedication to Megan. It's called For a Young Artist. Megan, you were a paintbrush dripping with color in a crowd of blank canvases. Your kind eyes saw the finished frescoes of your friends, still 10 steps behind, sketching out what they want their lives to look like. Megan, you were a canvas too. You were a picture of young talent in a cold world. Your smile, a frame richly adorned in gold. Now, no one gets the luxury of stepping back and appreciating their own accomplishments after the fact, but your unfinished masterpiece of a life will forever hang in the museum of our hearts, silently on display, speaking for itself. You guys want to hear one?
Yeah.
You want to hear one that's not in a book or anything like that? Yeah.
We just,
I think she does.
I want to hear another one from a book and another one from not a book. If you're asking.
I think I can handle that. So this is not a book. I mean, it might be. You see, the indigenous are endangered, and that sprawl has been known to swallow strangers like a jungle. With forked tongues, guerrillas gather on porcelain stages, scheming to feed that struggle. Now, respect really beats paid praises, not to pop your bubble, but talent is wasted. Poverty's been hyped as true life in a stage oddball selling hazes. Born shivering with thick-skinned coat of pride, a hide stolen by skinny jean racists. Primal chic as destructive as invasives. And tattooed with assuming gazes, these hip poachers from the mainland define a preserved wasteland out of our brick lane stable. Pacifying kids in cages, drugged and bobbing, hooked on lines of cable. Sidewalk cafes serving status in the safety of reserved tables. As game, we live in haste and evolve when we are able. Reclaiming cracks in pavement, using fame to feed the struggle, blaming systematic hustle, but that truth is only mumbled. Now no one expects you to save us. Credit card chance of a dream, scrap pipes to make payments, think rumble, not flight, invest in confidence, bank on true statements. If you catch my drift, you cannot fumble. Paychecks can pay for life's phases, but that change, it's only subtle. We're horses reborn feral. Surviving the dead of night, silent, foaming, careful. See new dreams from all new sides with the blinding, straight and narrow. You are here, fight to rewrite maps and draw new arrows. Those rotten power lines, vying tower and climb, but those who tripped and tumbled, both spaced out heater huddles, that change, it's only subtle. Brick metals bloom with grit and grime, a band of forest housed from aims and rubble. Half towns are burnt alive, but it only feeds that struggle. We were born to blame the systematic hustle. Born test rats for electric hater-rated institutions bound to crumble. A habitat designed for breeding low-life scum and trouble. High-rise buildings taken as trophies. Ashen children forced to stumble. And that sidewalk crack is getting bigger. As more spirits haunt the trigger, as the victims clutch their fingers, fearful of their neighbors, nothing works and everyone labors. The stabber hunted daybreak in darkness on safari for hope and swagger. We're wildlife to them. Beasts once tame, now lame or haggard. Our herds thinned out and staggered, but these predators can be captured. Like venomous snakes, their fables keep them raptured. They pray in grassy chapels, we pray, eat only apples. But they're fermented in a tonic. We live drunk off of the knowledge, sloshed to the moon, happy howling, cuckoo-ca-choo! My pelt looks like this, but scowling. Your eyes are bejeweled, hollow point squeezed by ivory rings. There's blood on your shoes, young bucks like me with horns removed, egos bruised. The hunted, desperate, learn to see. The hungry, fed up, yearn to feed. You say decay's got a lively following. So slop up tourist pigs and slap their meatless ribs, gravy, gasping, butchering, wallowing. There's cavities in the canines, and arrogance like pride out prowling, leaving lasting legacies, deliberate with depravity. We're all dead-eyed decoys strung up by gravity. Pendulums in the clockwork running out of time. Our children mean love the sun for shine, regression gnawing on the spine, epitomize unraveling, because bitter grapes make better wine. So I didn't write that one down, is that okay?
Yeah!
I got one more, and my friend does not have a car.
How much are those magazines?
Oh, you mean the Voices Collaborative Edition?
I don't know if I heard it right.
Oh,
It's so
well,
expensive.
it's such a deal. It's only $10.
Only $10.
Only $10.
I know, I was blown away too. What a value. The amount of amazing work. This is actually 2 years worth of books. That's about 7,000 paintings and poems, all collected into this wonderful comic book format.
That's
One of a kind!
And actually, if you buy it today, I guarantee you can get at least half of the artists to sign the work
Oh, yeah,
in the
yeah.
magazine.
Yeah, that's true.
The other half, of course, are dead or fighting addictions. But that's okay, because we're here, and we're here to give you a show.
I'm not as tall as you. Ew. so mine's devoted to the Prince of Steampunk.
Nice and loud into the mic there, dear.
Mine's devoted to the Prince of Steampunk. Do I love you? If I do love you, why? Questions that play my mind. And I feel yours as well. We are in a spin, a tide, a storm, emotion and grandeur. You pull and I push, you take and I give. Yin and yang. You put my hand to your heart, I put your pain in my hand. We twirl and we twist, we sing and we die. We love and we free, one path, two parts, yet still one flame. Please let me love you, no promises, no guarantees, just abandoned passion, the will to live, a heart that only wants to give, and a soul that wants to be free.
You'll have to forgive me. I quit writing. But, so in 6 months, this is all I can muster up.
Nice.
Yeah. And it's
Don't
called...
quit quitting.
Yeah, never quit quitting. Unless you're an addict, then quit quitting. This is called I'm Getting Older. It's my birthday in a few days here. It's funny. I'm not even sure how old I will be turning this year. I know I could figure it out rather quickly, but really, I don't care to. But I'm another year older. I am older. I am getting old. And so I look around me and all the lives I have known. So many have died. And as far as those alive, most have graduated college and gotten degrees, fallen in love and decided to marry, started careers and began families. Some a few of the above, as for the others, all of the above. And then there is me. It seems as if all I have done with my life is bounce from person to person, girl to girl, drug to drug, day to day, place to place, event to event, night to night, happenstance to happenstance, randomness to randomness, experience to experience. Always searching for the perfect word in the perfect poem. But I'm turning another year older. I'm getting to be old, I realize. It's another year with no security, no anchor, and worst of all, still no perfect poem. And I think that's starting to scare me. Because if in the end, all that is left of me are books filled with chicken scratch words that even I find difficulty in reading, then what would be left of me? A wasted life, I suppose. A wasted life. And there's nothing worse than that. Maybe though, just maybe, it's still in there, somewhere, the perfect poem. Like a bear in hibernation or a caterpillar experiencing metamorphosis. If it is, I'm betting it will be about her. The first and always and only love of my life. The one I swear I will never write about again every time I put pen to paper. But yet still, after years of not seeing her speaking, I always cave into and do just that. She knows who she is. Yes, if the perfect poem is in me, I bet it will be about you. And so maybe getting older isn't so bad. And maybe getting older is just what it will take. Even if with no security, no anchor, and no place or home, maybe that's the cost of the perfect poem. Decades and decades of getting older, decades and decades of your absence, with all time spent searching for something that makes sense, while all the while residing in some dark corner, loving you from the shadows, with nothing but years worth of dead flowers and valentines not sent, and a collection of anything but the perfect poem. Maybe that's what it will take though, and maybe then it will happen. A life lived for no other reason than to love, to know love, to understand love, to write the perfect poem. I guess I'll just have to wait and keep living to find out. But if so, even a lifetime of being the black sheep, the bad example, the constant fuck up, and the bad apple will be worth it. To finally express what I meant when I said, I love you. To to finally find the perfect words and the perfect poem, and to finally make something out of this life of mine.
Okay, we can do this. We can do this. We can do this. I know that's what you're gonna do. This one. But I did tell you. Right there. Our collaboration today. Just let me know. I call this one Traveler. Isn't this playing lovely? Here I stand, all alone. Mine with the past, my only home. For today is far away from yesterday where I tried to stay. And now the sun is falling down, freezing the earth and covers the ground. How appropriate this cold can be, life in words can now be seen. And I'm out to sea, tossed about by the storms, changed my route. Winter snow drifts around, swept by the wind as it falls to the ground. Numbered footsteps on a frozen trail, to the edge of the earth about to set sail. No footprints are made or left in my wake. I carry signs of my life and love that I take. And now the sun melts through the cold and highlights the waves and ripples of gold. How bittersweet the spring is to die. Each cycle of growth seems to end for decay. Out to sea, tossed about by the storms, changed my route. Autumn leaves drifting around, swept by the breeze as they fall to the ground. Hard to breathe this hot summer's day. Mirage over hills confusing my way. Beating the earth with sweat from my face. No mercy in shade, I'm leaving this place. And now the sun slowly goes down on the horizon and sets like a crown. Takes a bow and gives to the night a landscape of stars and silver moon's light. Out to sea, tossed about, her rumblings have ceased. I sail into darkness encompassed by peace. The snow and the leaves are no longer seen. Buds on the trees, grass covers it green. This one, again, I call Troll's Folly. This is a piece I did with Orion Bellows Finger Paint Extravaganza. It's really dope. And these are the images I was able to make out of his abstract work.
So I called it Troll's Folly, because I saw a big troll.
Just cute.
There once was a water troll, lived in the water, grinning smugly, reminiscing over cattle he had slaughtered. For his creatures grew more wary when they ventured near the lake. For when the troll seen one drinking, that's a life he'd quickly take. Ever lurking in the darkness like a demon most foul, a tall tale to the humans, watched closely by the owl. Outrun by the horses, he would dig in mud for frogs, and snack on salamanders somewhere out by the bog. When the troll got his fill, he would howl most wicked. His kind was the main reason that there are no wild chickens. There was one dreary night, the troll was chomping on a bone. All around was total quiet, and he found himself alone. Not a single woodland creature, he had a feeling most strange. This was a new experience, it clearly threw him in a rage. To and fro across the woods, even slashing at the trees. By himself he wailed in anger, till he fell to his knees. Always living in the moment, never thought about tomorrow. He never knew his lust for blood would ever bring about his sorrow. Sitting by the river, he was gazing in the air, and realized his constant murder only masked his despair. Having you here really ramped up the applause for me, bro. Thanks.
Thank you, thank you.
Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, that you didn't know about. Graffiti Lane! Written by me, Silver Fox. Oh. All right, I'm gonna get deep on that. Walking backwards down the skewed, tumultuous tunnel of life, where light begins to recede and fade. Punk art pops out, picking at my seething, with which there's no reasoning, bitter with no seasoning, this litter in my filthy dreams. They say with reality there's no escaping, but that doesn't stop folks from running, now does it? Down here, where the overpass hides the underbelly, where lines of structure waver and turn like cracks in the concrete, the expressed art of entropy, where the disenchanted answer in vivid colors, these columns bathed in steel gray, begging for change. An attempt to brighten day, fighting inevitable decay of their existence and life experience. Where the cars above, like time, keep passing by, their markers yet remain, unmolested by new paint. This is where authority and anarchy reach a stalemate. A tragical little place of angst and camaraderie, where fire finds a free base and needle finds an artery. A drug-induced dichotomy discussed through some unnatural nurturings, where with condoms comes money and evening ladies nurse microeconomies, where the shadows conceal the diminishing of young, bright, burgeoning souls once burgeoning, now bludgeoned and raked across hot coals dimly lit in burgundy, giving birth to curmudgeons who, like pigeons, roost noisily, puff up in flat, dusty wings, crapping on everything. This is a lifestyle, curiously leaning ever toward death's wiles, peaking. A journey into paradox, where security is found with a cold heart, and alligator tears are used to outfox. A short trip to nowhere, yet travelers abound, lost in darkness always found. A vortex of despair, this land of disdain, a graveyard of care, this place of buried pain. Graffiti Lane.
Yeah.
The Flint Dance Collaborative, who are dancing for Ryan Bellows, inspired by the painting we see up here called Lemon Haze with all that yellow and a dash of purple here and there. So
Silver Fox, I think you would agree. Give it up for Flint Dance Collaborative. Your piece inspired by Ryan Bellows, Lyndon Hayes.